If you have been craving a hobby but are having a hard time deciding what that hobby should be, then this video is for you. I'm going to share 5 questions with you that will hopefully help you clarify on what hobby you should choose to do in your life, what will bring you happiness, what hobby is going to bring you joy. And at the end, I'll also give you a little bit of homework that will hopefully help you take the first step in the hobby that you choose. So let's just get right into it. Here are the 5 questions that will help you determine what hobbies are best for you. The first question is, what do you daydream about? For example, say if one of your reoccurring daydreams happens during your favorite song, and let's say your favorite song is Misery Business by Paramore, and you are envisioning yourself on the stage playing this song, right? In this daydream, are you the drummer in the background like I would be? I love drumming, or are you Haley, belting out this song? Which one are you? It gives an indication on where your hobbies may lie. Or say, for example, you have a reoccurring daydream where you see yourself in France and you're speaking fluent French, but you currently do not speak a lick of French. That might be an indication that it might be fun for you to learn French. It'd be taking you a step closer to this daydream. For me personally, I have loved the drums and songs for such a long time since I was a teen, and I've always wanted to learn the drums because of that. Finally, before I moved to London, I got a drum instructor in New York, and I was learning how to play drums, and I will say that it was the first time I sat down and had my hour-long lesson. That was the happiest I'd ever felt at learning something new. Having dreamed of learning how to play drums for a little over 15 years, thinking about it for so long, and then getting to sit down and being horrible at it the first time, yeah, sure, but then getting to sit down and actually do it felt so amazing afterwards. I also was telling my grandmother about learning how to play drums, and it was just so beautiful because she ended up telling me that she always wanted to learn how to play drums. So that just felt like I was fulfilling both of our dreams. I just followed my daydream in that instance, and that was learning the drums. And it just felt so good to do. And that allowed me to show up for it consistently. It really did feel freeing, and it made me really happy. And that was just more of an indication that, okay, this is the hobby that is for me. For you, I highly suggest just tuning into where your mind drifts to when you're daydreaming. Do you see yourself sitting in a cafe writing, I don't know, your first novel or your second novel after the first one was a New York Times bestseller? What are your daydreams? And they really have answers as to what hobbies would be the most fulfilling for you or what would make you happiest, in my opinion. Ooh, this one is my favorite because this one allows you to see what's being sneaky, what you may not be willing to admit to yourself, or what you might not think you're able to do, but still might be a good hobby for you. And that question is, what do you see other people do that you admire? Well, do you admire people who are multilingual, who rock climb, who play the guitar? What do you see people and you're like, damn, that's so cool that they do that? And you may not even thought to yourself, like, I wish I can do that. But you've just seen them do it and you're like, that's pretty damn cool. I love that Sarah can sing. An example for me, I'm so obsessed with videos when people are just doing dance moves. I love watching Beyonce's backup dancers, but I used to love So You Think You Can Dance. I just admired everyone's skills. I personally have never leaned into choreographed dancing, but because of my admiration for dancers, I just figured, okay, let me go and try and take a dance class. I took a contemporary dance class at this studio called Pineapple Studios in London, and I loved it. I was bad. Don't get me wrong, I feel like I'm a good dancer. Like, I have rhythm. I'm a good dancer if I go out to dance with friends. Choreographed dancing is completely different. It also is mentally challenging too, because you have to be okay with looking at yourself be bad for a bit, which just made me admire dancers even more. Taking a dance class was just so much fun, and I was led to that because I just realized, like, hey, I love seeing these people show up and dance in groups and dance on their own, so why wouldn't I love doing that myself? And it turns out that I did, and even though I was nowhere near their level, it felt good to do. Look at who you admire, what you admire, just tune into what you interact with, and then you find yourself in awe with. This one, I think we hear about a lot when it comes to people talking about finding your purpose or finding the right career for you, and that is to think back to what you did as a child. This might not apply to everyone because a lot of the times what we did as a kid doesn't necessarily mean that we'll enjoy it as an adult, but maybe as a kid you love playing dodgeball and you go and find an adult dodgeball team and you find out that you still have the same amount of fun that you had as a kid playing dodgeball as an adult. Lean into that. If you love playing the piano as a kid, go and get piano lessons or buy an electric keyboard for your apartment. Personally, for me, I loved reading as a kid, and to this day I still love reading. I do it pretty consistently every year. Do I do it consistently throughout the year? That's a different story, different subject. But I have been reading since I was a kid, and that's the hobby that still sticks around for me. There are things I loved as a kid that I no longer love anymore. I used to love playing tag football in the streets. You would not catch me doing that anymore. So, just do it in a balanced way. What did you love as a kid that can apply to you right now as an adult that you can pick up as a hobby? Did you love doing doing ballet as a kid, go back to adult ballet classes, or simply do, you know, the ballet moves you learned as a kid in your apartment on a regular basis. Definitely think as children, we are less influenced. We care less about what the outer world thinks of us. We are less afraid of judgment, and we are just more in tune with what we love and just doing that. And then as you become an adult and as society puts its influences onto you, we sort of get afraid of talking about and actually acting on the things that we really love. So I think it's cool to go back to a time when we weren't as influenced by the outside world, where we just were a little bit more naive and we thought, okay, this makes me happy, so I'm gonna do it. There's nothing wrong with going back to that. For me, like I said, it's reading, and I would highly encourage you to figure out what that was as a kid that you love that you might be able to take into today while you're an adult. And it might not be anything, and that's okay, because we have 3 other questions. The next one is, what do you partake in regularly? I don't mean a hobby that you already do. I mean, for example, do you already go on walks regularly? Do you already babysit your sister's puppy on a regular basis and you love doing it? On my end, I used to regularly go to comedy shows with my friends I want to say weekly, but it wasn't weekly. It felt weekly. We went often. Let's just say we went often. We would go quite a few Mondays to this place called Littlefield in Brooklyn. We would go to comedy shows and we loved it. One year I wanted to sort of tackle my fear of public speaking, which I still sort of have. I thought, as someone who loves comedy, goes to comedy shows so often, taking a stand-up comedy class would probably be a cool way to do this. I admire comedians, which sort of goes back to the last question, but go to this thing on a regular basis. Why not give it a go? Let's see how it feels, and let's see if it can also help me push past this fear.
Like, that's what it is. Like, Tony just staring really intensely.
It was also very vulnerable, and that you're putting your words and your thoughts and your creativity out there to a group of people. I was really proud with the outcome, and I'm so glad I did that as a hobby. I ended up taking that path because it was just something I did regularly, and then I thought, you know, why not give this thing that I partake in so regularly a try on my own? Let's just to see what it's like. So let's say if you go to the theater often or you go to the movies often, what's one hobby that you can do that's connected to those things? Could you join a film club? Could you take an acting class? What is something that you just attend regularly or you partake in regularly that maybe has never crossed your mind as a hobby? It's just something you take in and that you could try as a hobby. You may love it, you may hate it, but it's worth giving it a try. Where and how do you want to grow? Do you want to learn how to do the splits? Do you want to have an apartment full of plants that are thriving and living their best lives? Do you want to get better at moving your body? I think these are great indications of where your next hobby can be found. So for example, say if you want to learn how to do the splits, maybe you would like to start yoga as a hobby. It's a great way to improve your flexibility. You can join a gymnastics class. Do you want to get better at feeding yourself or meal planning? Maybe cooking is your next hobby, or maybe taking a series of cooking classes so you can feel confident in your cooking skills enough to hit that goal of feeding yourself in a better way. I would love to be multilingual, and I would love to start with French. That sort of makes my next hobby pretty obvious. I want to take French classes. I used the splits as an example earlier. I want to learn how to do the splits, so I'll be taking a bit more yoga classes. What is your goal, and what is one way you really want to grow as just a person? And there doesn't have to be an answer to this. There are 4 other questions for you to pull from. If you are leaning towards this one, yeah, what is one thing that you really want to grow in? Before we get to the homework, I will say it's best to drop a hobby that doesn't feel like it's working for you instead of forcing it. You may be wondering, okay, how do I know if this is the right hobby for me? Personally, it's based on feeling. Do you feel happy doing this? Do you feel free, lighter, challenged in a good way? Do you feel like time is slipping by? You had an hour class and then you look up and the class is done, but it felt like it was 15 minutes. Find yourself week after week looking forward to the class. Tune into how you're feeling. Tune into how the time feels while you're doing this hobby. And then tune into seeing if you feel more curious about that hobby. Are you feeling more drawn into it? Listen to yourself, because there's no reason to do a hobby that doesn't feel good to you when there are so many that you can do that feel amazing. My homework for you would be, or my suggestion for you would be, answer each question, or just one. You know, we can start small. Choose one activity for each question and take one micro step. If you want to learn a language, download Duolingo, start with 5 minutes there. If one of the activities is dance, then put on some music, put on your favorite song, and start dancing for 5 minutes. Or find a video on YouTube. There are so many dance tutorials on YouTube. Find a tutorial on YouTube and start doing that and see how you feel. I really highly encourage you to take one step towards a hobby you want to do today and see how it makes you feel. I hope this has been really helpful. I hope this gets you out there and doing some hobbies, or I hope this gets you staying inside and doing some hobbies. You don't have to go out and do hobbies. Happy hobbying. Bye.